hiring the right people in your team is going to be majority of the battle for you. If you have really good people working for you, then it's going to be easier for you to meet your goals, your org goals, and as a result, it's going to be really good for your career growth as well. So make sure that you hire right. If you don't hire the right people, it can have a serious impact, and that is why you need to make sure you have good practices set up and as well. So let's talk about what happens once you hire. So once you do hire, make sure you have really good onboarding setup for them, because your goal as an engineering manager should be that they do take the time to onboard, but it doesn't take too long for them to onboard because you have set up the right processes in place and everything that they need to do and need to know to get up and running quickly in their job. So make sure there's proper documentation. You have set up 30, 60, 90-day goals for them. So they have some sort of a metric to hit so that they can work on those goals in their 30 days, in their 60 days, and in their 90 days. So make sure that first 90 days are set up for success. I have written a ebook on your first 90 days as an engineering leader and everything that you need to do to make sure your first 90 days are set up for success. If you're interested, take a look at the description below. The next thing you need to make sure you do is go through diversity and unconscious bias training. As humans, we all have our own biases, and we need to make sure when we are hiring that those biases don't interfere with the way we hire people. That's why it's important that you go through this training before you start interviewing people, because then you're going to know what are some of the biases that you may have and how to make sure that those don't play a role when you're hiring folks. Make sure you partner with recruiting as you're hiring as well. Honestly, recruiters are your best friends during hiring. If you tell them what you're looking for, they are going to go and find people on LinkedIn to make sure that the people are the right fit for your specific team. And then is interviews. So when you're hiring, make sure you have really good processes set up to hire folks. So make sure there is diverse interview participation. There are people from your team interviewing them as well, so they are comfortable for the new hires that are going to join the team. Make sure that there's a good technical challenge set up and not something that anyone can just Google. Then there's also a section for soft skill assessment. Their communication is on point so that you know that they are a good fit for your team. Conduct resume reviews, and you also hire for other teams as well. So as much as it's important that you hire for your team, you will also be expected to interview other team members as well. So make sure that you're really a important part of it, that you're hiring for other teams, but you're also reviewing resumes and making sure that you're improving the culture of the company. Hiring is something that you do need to invest really good time in, because as an engineering manager, you are going to hire folks for your, not just for your team, but also for others' teams. So understanding their goals and hiring the right people will really help you. Having a diverse set of interviewers really make for a good interview experience for the interviewee as well. But again, hiring is going to be a really important part of your role and something you should not take it lightly. So far, we have talked a lot about different pillars of engineering management, but product is a pillar that is extremely important as an engineering manager. When you are making decisions as an engineering manager, you will also have a product counterpart, a design counterpart, and maybe several others too, just to make sure that all the decisions are being made and all the key players are in the room while those decisions are being made for your team. Even though the people in your team are reporting to you, there might be designers that are reporting to a design manager, or there might be a product person that is reporting to a senior product manager, and so on. So you need to make sure that you are not the only one making decisions, and having a really tight collaboration with product, and I should also add here, design is extremely important, or any other folks that are important in decision making. So in product, let's make sure that there is business alignment, so you understand what the business is looking for. And when product does create a strategy, as an engineering manager, you review that strategy and really are on the same page as well. You make sure you ideate on different ideas that are really good for the product, create a different strategy and collaborate on that strategy as well. And based on the product strategy, make sure you also have your technical roadmap representation and focus as well. So if there's any technical that needs to be added, or if there's any tool that's being created for because of a specific task on your team, then make sure that gets added and represented in the technical roadmap as well. A technical roadmap is always a good idea, of features that you would like to improve, things that architecture that needs to happen to make sure that we sustain the scale of the product requirements. So again, having a technical roadmap would be really important, and something that you can initiate and get the team involved to start creating. Next is decision making and critical thinking. Always, as I mentioned earlier, make sure that all the key decision makers are in the team, and never say no. Make sure that you use critical thinking just to make sure that you don't just say no, but also are able to come up with creative solutions for the problems, because again, you need that creativity to push the org forward. Communicating understanding of technical requirements. Since you are a technical person in the room, you would have to a lot of times communicate to product and to other counterparts why certain tasks are taking this long, why something needs to happen, why the architecture needs to be prioritized, or whatever that might be. Make sure that you're communicating that and all of you are on the same page. And lastly, prioritizing toil and technical debt in collaboration with product as well. So again, if there's any toil that's been created because of past products or past features that you have implemented, or anything that just needs to be prioritized, then you need to prioritize in the roadmap as well. But again, get making sure everyone is on the same page, because you're not the only decision maker in the room. So again, collaboration with product is extremely important as a engineering manager. We should call this technical excellence, because as an engineering manager, you need to make sure that your team is following the best practices and everything is under control from an architecture perspective, and so on as well. Now again, you don't need to solve all of these problems yourself, but get the team together to make sure that these problems are being solved. So for example, in the technical aspect, there would be managing on call, and if there's any support required and there off hour support required, then are there best practices for it, that you are monitoring toil, so you have proper dashboards set up just to make sure everything is being tracked. If there are any incidents that have created toil in the past, an incident could be some that, let's say, the system goes down because of a feature that you own, or if there was a massive impact to the customers, and make sure that you have incident management practices as well. There's service ownership, so anything that you create, you own. So any of the services that you own truly belongs to you and your team, and you truly own that. If you have any architectural best practices documented as well, so that anyone knew that any new team collaborating with your team can refer that document just to make sure everything is on point. Then there is documentation and technical analysis being done as well for every feature that you work on, so that anytime any new feature needs to be worked on, there's documentation and there's a source of truth for everything. So just make sure that this is being done. And again, you don't need to do it. You can delegate these tasks to your team to do it as well. Then there is technical roadmap and alignment on technical strategy, which aligns with what we talked about in product. And then there are good code quality processes and templates created for your team, which allows your team to write better code. So, for example, there are better code review practices, there's a no blame culture. You are using pair programming as a way to collaborate and get developers together and improve their skills, and so on. And lastly, you have proper practices for automatic deploys, which allows you to automate your entire process in general. So anything that can be automated, you can think of technical bucket or technical pillar as a technical excellence bucket, which allows you to make sure that the technical excellence for your team is really great, and make sure that you are following all the best practices possible while deploying, because otherwise you're just going to create more toil, which will impact customers eventually. So again, technical is really important. Communication is a very important pillar as a engineering manager. You need to make sure that you're communicating right and effectively, frequently, with anyone who you're working with, so that you all are on the same page and there are no misunderstandings in your work culture. So for example, If you're working cross team, then there is proper collaboration and practices with cross teams, that people are talking to each other, there's proper meeting facilitation, the teams are working well together. Make sure that you partner with the engineering manager or the product manager or the design manager, or whoever the leaders are of that team, so that you all are on the same page and collaboration is seamless. Towards the end of the day, all the team members should be happy that the collaboration happened, so that it's everyone is happier. Then if there are proper async communication practices, after 2020 we are in a spot where a lot of us are in a remote culture, so it's important that communication practices are async, and there are remote communication practices, and you don't necessarily need to get in a call for everything. There are less meetings, and if there are meetings and there's a proper agenda to those meetings, there's proper meeting facilitation. As an engineering manager, a lot of times you will find that you are facilitating meetings and just asking questions, and asking the right questions to get the conversation started, so that the decisions are being made. Not every meeting will have the set of questions necessary, but just having the communication there really helps a lot, and that you are managing up as well. So you have a manager, and you really need to make sure that whatever you're working on, you are also sharing the work that you are doing, and you're truly owning up your career. I have written a blog post on managing up, so take a look at that, because there's a lot more to talk about while managing up and why it's so important for your career. So make sure you're doing that and communicating that, because your boss, your manager should be an ally for you, and they are going to be in rooms that probably you're not going to be, so they need to represent your work, and that's why you make sure you communicate effectively. Then there's stakeholders. Now, anytime you're working on something, there is a stakeholder for it. There are multiple stakeholders responsible for the work that you're doing, and they are impacted. Their team is impacted with the work you're doing as well. So make sure that there are frequent stakeholder updates. There's communication with stakeholders. They know how frequently you are going to communicate, and involve them early. So if your team is working on something, involve them early to get their feedback, because people are invested in the thing that they give feedback on, and that they put time investment in. So if they give feedback early, they will be more invested, and as a result, they are going to be happier, because they can see that the team is already working on it. So this is why communication is extremely important with stakeholders, and having a really good partnership with them. And as a manager, communication pillar is extremely important. And if there's one thing you need to start doing as you transition from being a developer to an engineering manager, it's communication. Make sure your communication is on point. We talked a lot about communication with stakeholders, technical excellence, product, team growth, people growth, and lots more. But this is a very important bucket as well. I've mentioned this in the past in other videos, that engineering management is just like being on an airplane, where you need to put your oxygen mask first and then give the oxygen mask to your team. So if you cannot breathe, you will not be able to help your team either. So make sure you're investing time in your personal growth as well. You are leveling up your skills, and there are a few ways you can level up your skills: through books and ebooks, presentations to share learnings, book coffee chats with other engineering leaders, join communities, take courses, and so on. And as you already know, I'm already working on a course on helping you become a successful engineering manager. If you're interested, add yourself to the waitlist and check out the course. I'm really excited for this course, and everything that I'm covering in this specific video and lots more is also going to be included. And this is the part where you really need to level up your skills and make sure that the people on your team don't become the experiment for your growth. So this course is really here to help you for that. So the next thing you need to do for your personal growth is also document your knowledge, share your learning with other leaders in the company. Make sure that you have a really good relationship with them as well, because who knows when your team would need to work with them. But also it's important that having a good network around you would really help you grow in your career as well. Then set up goals for yourself. Again, everything that we talked about in the growth section for your team also applies to you as well. Make sure that you do have a development plan that you're working on. You are setting up SMART goals as well. You are creating those goals and measuring as well. Because again, as I said before, because as an engineering manager, it's extremely important that you measure everything. So make sure that you are doing that for yourself as much as you're doing that for your team as well. And above all of this, it's important that you take care of your mental health and personal development as much as you care for your team. So that is all for today. I really hope you have a solid understanding for what it's like to become an engineering manager and how that differs from being a developer. Just by comparing the day in the life of an engineering manager, we got to know a lot about what a developer does and doesn't do, and what an engineering manager does behind the scenes. So if you like this video, please like and subscribe to my channel and let the YouTube algorithm know that you really are interested in this type of content. So I really hope you have a good day. Bye.